Hi everyone, this is Bela from the Writer's Territory, and today we will have a look at custom templates in Scrivener, how you can use them and how you can create them yourself. I'm very excited because custom templates are a really cool thing in Scrivener because they help you save a lot of time. But before we jump into it, for those who haven't taken any previous webinars of mine, let me just quickly introduce myself. I'm a software instructor, obviously, but I'm also an option screenwriter. I've always loved movies and television, of course, like maybe all of us. Maybe it's because as a kid I grew up without a television set at home. So we didn't have a TV in our home. So what I would do is I would sneak out to the neighbors' kids and watch cartoons there. And I just loved it. The whole movie and television thing just fascinated me. So maybe that's why I got into writing, and because I wanted to create that myself. I've also worked in television production for quite some while, so I got to know all the production side of it, and I've always been interested in computers and software. So that's why I like doing these webinars. I want to show you how you can use your software correctly, in a sense that you can use it really productively so that you don't have to think about it anymore. Because when you're writing and you're fiddling with your software, you're trying to figure something out, in that time you cannot be creative, you cannot write. So if you don't know your software well enough, that can interrupt all your creative flow. So, and we don't want that, right? So that's why I want to show you how to use the software until it becomes second nature to you, so you don't even have to think about it anymore. Okay, because the software can help you save a lot of time if you use it correctly. And that's why we're here. So custom templates. Custom templates are a great way to help you save time, because what you want to do is you want to have all the content that you need and all the settings, also all the settings that you need, everything that you can prepare for a project, set up and ready to go. So you just have to open the new project from your own customly created template file, and you're ready to go. You can directly go to writing. So it's well invested time to spend a little bit on creating a custom template, because it will pay off over and over again in the future. All right, so let me just share my screen with you and we will get right to it. Okay, so basically every Scrivener project can be converted into a template. The template will have then all the information that you have in your project at the time that you make it a template. Okay, so at the time that you create your project into a template, all that information will be saved in the template. That means that every time you open up a new template, you have all the information readily available to you. And so you want to keep that in mind. You want to think about what do you want the project to look like when you open it? Where do you want to start? What kinds of information do you need inside there? What kinds of settings do you need inside there? So we will look at all the steps in this webinar that you need to consider when creating your own template. This is a two-part webinar series. So in this first part, we will look about the basic structure, the basic steps that you have to go through. And in the second part, we will do more like a deep dive into what else can you set up in your custom template to make it really sophisticated. Okay, but in this webinar, you will have a general overview of what to think about when creating a template. So don't worry about that. Okay. In this webinar, we will go through what do you need to think about in terms of binder structure, in terms of the compiler. We will look a little bit at the compiler, not too much. We will look at the compiler more in the second part. We will also look at template documents. You want to set up template documents in your custom template project so that you have documents you need often readily available. For example, character sheets. We will also take a quick look at metadata, keywords, label, and status. what to keep in mind there, how to create an information page about your template, how does it work, and then in the end we will create a template so that you see how that works, and I will also show you how you can import and export template files to interchange between different computers, or maybe you want to give your templates to another person, or import one of my templates, or you got a template from somebody else. So let's start at the beginning. Let's start with binder structure. You want to know what binder structure you want to have in your project, and that is important for several reasons. First of all, it should be easy to work with for you. It should be the binder structure that makes sense for you, but also it's important to keep in mind later when we look at the compiler that you need to set up, well, you don't need to, but it makes sense to set up a compile setting that goes with your custom template, and you need to think about the binder structure so that it compiles correctly. So let's take a look at a few templates. If you want to follow along, open your Scrivener, and you will see the template chooser. And first of all, let's take a look at the blank template. Just double click it or click create. You can give it a name if you want. All right, so if you open that up, that is the blank Scrivener project. Basically, all the templates that you have in Scrivener, and this will be the same for your custom templates also, all the templates in Scrivener are based on this one. So if you want to create a template from scratch, that is the best point to start, because let's take a look at the binder. Everything you have here it's a draft folder, a research folder, and a trash folder. Those three folders are the default Scrivener folders that are in every project. You can rename them, you can change the symbols, but they will always be there. Okay, so what you have here is only one untitled document, one empty document in your draft folder. So what you could do now in terms of binder structure that you want to have in your custom template is you can create whatever you want. You can say, okay, I want a chapter folder, let's call this chapter 1, and then I want, inside of this, I want to have one document, and this is going to be, I don't know, you can give it a name if you want. You can say paragraph, or you can leave it out for later. So however you want to do it, this will be an example for a very, very simplified version of a binder structure. But in order to see what you could do, let's have a look at other templates, how they did it. Okay, so just to see what is possible. I'm going to create a new project. And now let's look at the novel template. You can go to fiction and novel. There are two novel templates. I'm going to pick this one. Doesn't matter. It's just to take a look. Call this novel. All right, so if we take a look at the binder now, we see the way it is set up. What they did, just don't look at everything in the binder, just let's look at the manuscript first, this one here, this part. The way they did it is they have a chapter folder and a scene folder. They call that scene. So I don't know if you want to write in scenes in your novel, but you can set it up any way you want. And then apart from that, they have a whole bunch of folders. They have a characters folder. It's empty, but you have a folder ready to put your characters, so you don't have to create it anymore. You have a places folder, and then they have something like front matter. That is, that's where you can put pages that are at the front when you compile. If you don't know what that means, don't worry about it at the moment, but they have pages like title pages and other information already included in the template file. So when you create a new novel, you already have that in there. In case you need that, it would be a good idea to include that for you as well. And they structured it nicely so you instantly know what it is. You see they even have an ebook cover here. okay, migrate novel. And there is also a notes folder, it's empty, and there is also a research folder. And what they did, they put in sample outputs, so you see what the output will look like if you compile with this template, which is a nice idea. So you get a little bit of an impression of what your output will look like. Then they have a template folder. We will look at that later. That's where you can put your documents that you need often, and documents that already should have some information pre-filled for you. So for example, classic example, character sheet. So you have like role in the story, goal, and all that. Whatever you want to put in there, you can put in there every document you like. We'll look at that, and then it will become a template, and you can use that and create more documents from that one. So this is one possibility to set it up. Of course, if you want to set it up exactly this way, it doesn't make a lot of sense to make a custom template. You can just use the novel template. But what you could do, if you say, for example, I want to have this binder structure and I like that, but I want to change just a little bit, then you just create a new project from the novel template like we just did, and then you change whatever you want to change, okay? And you will get a lot of ideas what you can change or could change in these two webinars, or at least in this one. And so then you will know what kinds of decisions you want to make, okay? And then when you change whatever it is that you want to change, then you just create a new template from that. So then you have everything here in there with the little changes that you made as your own custom template. That is a very effective way to create new templates. So let's have a look at another one. I'm gonna create another new project, and this time I'm gonna pick the screenwriting template. You see there are several. Some of them are custom templates that I made, and they're available on my website. So let's just click the screenplay template. Screenplay. And let's take a look at the binder structure here. And it is a lot simpler than the novel. As you can see, we have the draft folder is called Screenplay. And there is only one file in it, and that is a scene file. And you can see from the icon that it is a screenplay page. So it has screenplay settings. We'll not go into that, just in case you're wondering why that symbol is different. They also have a front matter, but screenplays don't have a lot of front matter. They just have a title page. That's why they put it here. And you have this, similar to before, characters folder, places, notes, and so on and so forth. Okay? So in terms of binder structure, you want to make sure that you have everything in there that you need every time you create a project from that custom template. So all these extra folders where you want to put stuff depends on you, the way you like to write and you like to work. Put them in there, because when you create a new project from that custom template, you don't want to waste time adapting it. You want it ready to go. Okay, so it might also be that it takes you a couple of iterations. Maybe you start with one version of a template, and then you see, okay, I need to change a couple of things, and then you make a new version and a new version and a new version. That's okay, but over time you will adapt your templates. That's fine, but sooner or later you will have one where you don't really have to adjust a lot, so you can go and start writing right away. Okay, now next thing, let's take a very quick look at the compiler. I'm gonna switch to the novel template. I'm guessing a lot of you will use that one, but it doesn't really matter. So let's have a look at the compiler. I will not go into the details of the compiler in this webinar for time reasons. I just want to give you a quick overview so that you know which steps are necessary, which steps do you need to think about and go through if you want to create custom templates in general. In the next webinar, in part 2, we will have more time because we already will have gone through the basic steps, and we will take a closer look at the compiler. But this time, I just want to show you a couple of things. In case you have never opened the compiler before, don't panic, because there is a lot of stuff that you can set up. Scrivener is a very powerful software, and part of that power comes from you can work inside of the project any way you want, basically. And how your project looks and how your project is, how it looks, how it is formatted, how it is structured in your output doesn't necessarily have to have anything to do with the way it is set up in your project. Okay, so what I mean by that is you can output very different documents from one project. For example, just in case you have no idea about this, just to give you one example, if you have a novel and you have some, let's say you have some text here in the scene, and then you have a synopsis here, and you have notes here, and you have other information in other places. In the compiler is where you define what parts do you want to include in your output. You can just output your novel, then it's just going to include the text that you put in your scenes. You can output an outline, and that's what you see here on the left. You see these compile formats. You see what it says. You can output your manuscript in different fonts, although you can change them if you want, if you know how. Or you can output an outline. In case you are a screenwriter, you can output your script. And these are these are included, but you can make custom ones. You see, for example, you see some of my custom formats under my formats. You can create your own custom compile formats, and that is the real power. That is a very important part of your custom template, or it can be. If you know how to set these up, then you can adapt the compiler settings directly to your custom template. And then you have, what you will have then is, just as it says here, you just have to choose, okay, which setting, which kind of document do I want to compile, to output. So you have to set it up only once, and then every time you recreate a project from that custom template, if you set it up correctly, which I will show you to do, then these custom compile formats will always be included in that template, and you never have to touch them again until you want to change something, of course. Okay, so I just want to show you, give you a quick overview. So if you're a little bit confused by that, don't worry. We will go into more details in the next webinar. And I'm also planning to do a two-part webinar series on the compiler itself, because there is a lot of things that you can do. So just to show you some things, okay? Here on the right are your included documents. So depending on which documents you have to define as being included in the compiler or not, they will show up here. And here in the middle, you have so-called section layouts. That is, in fact, let me show you what that is. Let me just quickly, for demonstration, duplicate one of these manuscripts compile formats. If you double click it, you can duplicate it, and you can create another one, a copy based on these settings. And again, we will look at that in the second part, but here you see the section layouts. That's what I wanted to show you. The bold ones are the ones that are used in this project, and here you define what kind of information you want to include. So, and you see there's a whole bunch of other settings. So if you save those with your custom template, you have them available right here, and you can choose which ones to use for which documents in your project. And then they will output exactly the way that you set them up. And by the way, here you also see add front matter. So this is what this front matter folder is for, because you can add it to the beginning of your compile. Okay, so in case you know a little bit about the compiler, you might be interested in the second part where we take a closer look. For now, if you don't know too much about the compiler, just know, and that's what that's the takeaway I wanted to give you for this time. Just know that you can include your compile settings with your custom template, so they will always be saved within your template and you don't have to touch them anymore. Okay, so that's the important part. All right, so the next thing I wanted to show you. If you have, let's go back to the character sheets, okay? You have in this novel template, I'm still in the novel template, although it could be a custom one, doesn't matter. You have this template folder where it says template sheets, and it also has this T as a symbol. So if we open that, we have a character sketch in here and a setting sketch for location, but basically you can put anything you want in there. If you have a document that has some information that you want to use later and expand on it, like this one, you can just put it in the templates folder and then it will become a template. Actually, let me just show you. I'm gonna take this scene document and I'm just gonna write something. Let's just say template document. Now this doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but I just want to show you what happens. So I'm going to duplicate this because I want to leave the scene in there. What I did was I hit Command D on the Mac. It should be Control D on the PC to duplicate this document. So then I'm going to call this template document. All right. So now, if I move this down to the template sheets folder, then you see it changes the icon. First of all, it's no longer in the manuscript because I moved it over. Second of all, it changes the icon. Now it has this little T. And if I want to create a new document from this one, let's say it's a form to fill out similar to a character sheet. Maybe you have this for other things in your story. And if you want to create a new document from this template now, then you just go to wherever you want to do that. Let's pick notes, for example. And then you go where you normally would create a new document. You see new text, empty text in the empty folder. And you also see the character sketch and setting sketch included because they're in the template sheets. And you also see our template document that we just created. If I create this now, then you see I can edit the name, template document 2, for example, and then you see this text that I put in there is already in their template document. Okay, so I could just continue adding stuff, and the same goes for the character sketches as well. So anytime you have a document in your project that you want to reuse more often, then it makes sense to set it up the way you need it with just the information that you want before you start expanding on it. And then you put it in the template sheets folder and it's available, and you don't have to copy and paste stuff over, and it's a lot more simple this way. So question is, how do you create this template sheets folder? Because Scrivener needs to know where to get these documents that show up in the new document dialog here. So, but that's very easy to do. You just go to the project and project settings. And here you have a whole bunch of stuff. And you have also, if you go down a little bit, you see special folders. And here is special folders. You see that template sheets is selected as the template folder. If I were to change that, let's just do it for demonstration purposes. Let's say I want the notes folder now to be my templates folder. Click OK. Then now you see the template sheets folder now has just a normal folder symbol, and the notes folder now has the templates folder symbol, and it is in fact the new templates folder. If I now go to create a new document, you see the templates from before are gone, they're no longer included, and I can only create this template document 2 as a new document. Of course, theoretically, you can just duplicate a document from any folder you like and put it somewhere else. It's just that it's way easier if you have, and also it's tidier if you have one folder that holds all your template, and you just go to the menu. You then don't even have to go to the folder and duplicate and stuff. You just go to the new document menu, and there you have all your templates. And then if you select one of them, it will create a new document just the way I just showed you. Let me just put that back to template sheets. All right, so you see that's very, very easy to do. Now let's talk about something else. Let's talk about metadata, keywords, label, and status. Again, we will look at those with a little bit more detail in part 2. But I want you to be aware that these really can make a difference. Because they also will be included in your document, so they are saved with your custom template. And it really makes sense to set them up the way you need them, because if you don't, you will have to change them every time afterwards, and that can be pretty annoying. If you don't plan to use them a lot, I would at least check how they're set up, if you like the way they're set up, okay? And in case you have no idea what I'm talking about, I'm just gonna show you real quick where they are. We will look at how to change them and create them and use them, especially keywords and metadata, in the next webinar, but you should know where they are, okay? So let's look at metadata first. The metadata is stored and defined if you open the inspector. If in case it is not open, click on the eye icon in the upper right corner and go to the third tab. It's the one with this tag icon. You see when I hover, it says metadata. And here you have, in fact, you have metadata and keywords also. It's one tab. Okay, so you have keywords down below and you have metadata here. Here you can set up custom metadata. And that means you can basically add any kind of information to your project that you want. As I said, we will look at that. There is nothing set up by default because that is very personal use. There are basically no standards on how to use it. It just depends on your project, and we will go through examples the next time. But you need to know where it is. Okay, so just check how this is set up, because if you're working from a template from somebody else, there might be something in there and maybe you don't like it, or you want to change it, or you want to change the way it behaves or whatnot. Okay, same with keywords. Yeah, just check if there are any and how they are set up and how they are structured. Then same goes for label and status. In case you haven't used label and status extensively, let me just show you where they are. If you right click on a document in the binder, you see in the right click menu it says label and status. Okay, so just check if they are set up the way you want to use them, because by default you just have the names of the colors with the Scrivener project, and with status you have just some generic statuses that you might want to use, like to do in progress, first draft, final draft, blah blah. Okay, so I will show you how to use them for now, just so you know where they are. Okay, all right, so moving on, let's take a look at the information page. Maybe you noticed when I opened this template the first time, it didn't open with this scene document active, but rather with this one. So the way, and I do it the same way with my custom templates, the way these standard Scrivener templates are set up is, if you create a new one, the first thing that you see is this information page. You see, this is quite long. It doesn't have to be. It depends on how your custom template is set up, how much you have to explain, and who you want to explain it to. Because this is basically a page that tells you everything the template does. Okay, you see it says how to use this template. It explains the folders, which kinds of documents you have at your disposal to create, and then comes the compiling part, and that is usually the most, well, I don't want to say the most complicated, it might be, but in any way the most extensive, because this explains how the different compile formats that I showed you earlier are set up and how they behave. So if you go through this, you have an idea what this template, this novel template, in fact does. You have an idea about how the compiler is set up, and you wanna make sure that you at least understand what it does, because otherwise you will end up just trying something with a compiler and maybe failing. A lot of times it can be very frustrating. So if you use ready-made custom templates from Scrivener that come with Scrivener, be sure to read this information page. And also, I advise you, if you create your own custom templates, that you create this information page. So, and that, like I said, it depends. You might think that, well, I'm just using this template for me, I don't need that. And maybe that's fine. So if you don't want to create it, you don't have to, of course, it's your decision. But what I want to say is, it happens to me often that I think, okay, I know the stuff because I use it and I created it. But then if you don't use it for some time, or maybe you change something and then after some time you forget what you really set up in the compiler, what you really set up in the metadata and the keywords and all that kind of stuff. And it can be very frustrating later when you have to go back and go through all the settings just to see what you did, a couple of months back. So it might be easier and save you more time in the long run if you take a couple of minutes. And if it's not for somebody else, you don't have to, care a lot about the formatting and stuff. Just, I would at least create a document where you put some notes for yourself that explain how this template is set up, and so that you can go back to it later. Okay. And I also think it's a good idea to have this page, the first page, that you see when you open the template, when you create a project from the template. And the way you do it is, now we're going to the creating the template part, finally. The way you do it is, you just need to make sure that before you create the template file, which we're going to do in a second, make sure that this information page is the one selected and active in the binder. So, because if I create a template right now, and then I create a new project from that template, it will look exactly like this. So if you, for any reason, just are maybe, on the research folder, and then you say, okay, I'm going to create a template, you might, but just be aware that every time you create a new project from that template, it's going to open exactly like this. And so it's just good practice to make sure that it opens with something useful. And that depends on your, however you want to do it, of course. But I would suggest that you do it with an information page. In case it's a very simple template, you could also just, say, let's just delete this. You could also say, okay, no, I don't want the information page. I use it all the time. I know how it's set up, and I don't care, or whatever. And then you just open it with the empty document, and you can immediately start to write. That might be something else. Or if you have a project, for example, for research, where you have just where you store all your research, you really might want to open it with the research folder. and maybe you already have some stuff in there that you want to have there in every project, and you want to have that right away. So that's totally fine. Just remember, whatever the way the project looks when you save your template, that is also the exact same way it will look when you create a new project from that template. Okay, that is the takeaway here. All right, so now when you now want to create the template, that's the most easy part. You just go to File and Save as Template. And now you get to this dialog. And now it says title novel because I'm creating this from the novel template. I'm just gonna call it my novel. I'm not gonna save it to the template chooser anyway, just for demonstrations. So here you just give it a title, and then we need to select the category. The category is what you saw in the template chooser. Actually, let me just show you again. If you go to new project, you see at the left side, this is the category. You have fiction, non-fiction, script writing, and miscellaneous. So that is the category here. If you go to Save as Template again, you see these categories, and you can put it in any one of them. Okay. You can even create a custom one. So just pick one, depending on where you want to find your template in the template chooser later, in case you decide to include it in the template chooser. You can also pick an icon. You have a lot of icons at your disposal, and you can even create custom icons. So I think that is a very, very nice thing to do. It's not really necessary, but I like doing it. So I usually do it for my custom templates. If you have downloaded any of my Scrivener templates, you know that they have a different icon in the corner down there, so that you can distinguish them really quickly and find them really quickly in the template chooser, and you don't have to waste time looking for them. How you create these icons, I will talk about that. I will show you that in the part 2 webinar, but just know that you can do that. But you can, for now, just choose another one. This, you see, lecture looks differently, so but I'm gonna stick with this one maybe. Now if you click Save Styles into Template, it will also save the formatting styles that you might have defined in your project into the template. In case you don't want that, if you want to create a project from your template file that it uses different formatting styles or the default formatting styles, then you don't activate this one. Okay, so now let's hit OK. And I've saved this before, so it will say if I want to replace it. It shouldn't do that in your case. So now let's go to the template chooser, new project, fiction. And you see it says my novel. Okay. Now, and if we opened it, it would look exactly the same way we saved it as a template file, because it's essentially the same project, just as a template now. Now, what if you, let's talk about exporting and importing real quickly. What if you want to give the template to somebody else, or you want to copy it over to another computer or something, or you want to save a backup version of it? Then that's very simple. You go to the options menu at the lower left corner, and here you have import templates and export templates. And so if you export it, you can just give it a name. And the file extension is Scriv template, at least on the Mac. But you don't need to worry about that. It's just a template file. And then you say export, and now I put it on the desktop, and it should be there. And you see there it says my novel Scriv template. Now, every now and then people write me an email. They downloaded one of the templates that I created for Scrivener, and they say, oh, it's broken, or is it maybe not for PC? But what usually happens is they don't know that templates need to be imported. You cannot just double click it. If you double click it, like you used from other templates, maybe Final Draft or whatever, that doesn't work. You need to import it the same way we just exported it. You just go to, actually I'm gonna delete this one, just right click and delete if you wanna do that. By the way, if you right click, you also see that it says reveal template in Finder, and it would show you where all the template files are stored. But if you want to import it, just go to options, import template, and then pick the template file, import, and there it is. And now you can use it, okay? All right, so this is the end of the first webinar. As I told you before, there's going to be a second one where we dive much deeper into custom templates. This one was just meant to give you an overview and that you are aware of the steps that are necessary. What we will do in the second webinar is we will look into the compiler. I showed you a little bit of that. I will show you how you can basically set up these custom compile formats, what you need to do. So we will look at how you can set up your section layouts, okay, how you make sure those settings are saved within your project file, in your custom template file. We will also look at the section layouts, how you assign them. Okay, you need to know about section types, what they are and how you assign them, the layout that you created earlier in the compile settings, and also where you create these section types. Now, because depending on the project, you might have different section types, like you see front matter, scene heading and scene, and so on and so forth. Could be title page, could be something else. And so you need to know how to create those. You need to know how to create the section layouts, that is the formatting and what kind of information is included. And you need to know how to assign them, and you need to know how to save all that within your custom template file. And we will have a look at all that in the second webinar. Then also, I will show you more about custom metadata. That can be real powerful if you use it correctly. And I show you ways you can set it up and the different kinds of metadata you can use. You remember this one here? That's really nice, because if you set it up right, you can even use it in a spreadsheet-like fashion in Scrivener. And I had one lady once say after the webinar, she said, "Oh, that's nice. Now I don't have to use Microsoft Excel for this anymore. I can use it I can do that with custom metadata in Scrivener." And that is really true. And what we will also look at is metadata keywords, keyword structure, and also label and status, how you can set those up or what you might take into account. And we will also see how you can create your own custom icons, right? So for now we just used pre-made ones, but you can create them, design them in your own ways to have a really unique icon, which is a nice thing, I think. All right. So if you would like to sign up for the second part of the webinar, I would be very happy to see you again. And you will see you really will learn a lot, and you will be able to create very sophisticated custom templates later, and it will save a lot of time in the long run and not get distracted all the time when you're writing, when you need to set something up. So if you want to take part in the second part of the webinar, just click the link on the last page of your handout, and I will also include the link in an email that I will send you right after this webinar ends, and so you can sign up if you would like to be part of it. All right, so thank you all very much for joining this webinar. I hope you have a great rest of the day, and I hope your time was well spent, and I wish you happy writing, everybody. Thank you. Bye.